Righty ho, everyone, and welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us for Trading Buddies on this Monday, the whatever it is, 27th of November. That's right. I should remember that date for some reason. It's nice to have you on board, and it's nice to be out of bed, I've got to say. Haven't been feeling too flash with this breasted COVID thing. It's been wrecking my body for the last 7 days or so. Well, nearly 7 days. Feels like 7 months. Anyway, I'm up and about, so more than happy that is the case, and more than happy that you could join me for this session of Trading Buddies. And there's my trading buddy as I speak. G'day, mate. You doing in early?
I know, yeah, you do. I know, yeah, how you're doing. You're not doing so well, which is which
You
is
know,
why I thought I'd pop in, mate.
just in case I fall off the perch.
Oh God, I mean, I've had it, and it is. I know what it's like. It's debilitating. It feels like you've been in a ring with somebody heavy.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer that at times. At least you get knocked out quick.
You coming out the other end though?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am. A bit. Well, no, I'm not on there. Yes, I am coming out the other end,
Yeah,
and I'm very pleased that that's the case. I,
yeah,
you get up and you have a crack, and after about 10 minutes, you think, "Oh, what am I doing?" You get the giddies again, and then back you go, and
yeah,
that extends out day by day. So I'm
yeah.
I'm up to a few hours, and I think we can manage to get through the show today
Oh,
without
let's
too
hope
much
so, mate.
trouble.
Let's hope
Yeah.
so. No pressure though. If you need to duck out, you do your thing.
All right, mate. Will do. Thank you. I've got my fluid beside me in case needed, which probably is. That's the main thing. Keep your fluids up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Let's have a look and see what's about the place. I don't need that. I do need that, and I do need to go there and there. Hopefully, you've got the right screen up. I'm a little bit. Yeah, there we go. All good. Let's have a look at the gold thing first up. And gold looks to be in a bullish frame of mind. It has
Yeah.
been, of course, for the last few days. Why? I'll defer that one to Ash, but it looks interesting. Today's candle took off very, very early in the day
Mm.
and has pulled back off that for whatever reason. Maybe the level that it's reached has something to do with it, but it has poked its head and closed above the 2000 mark, and many people will have you believe, and I'm probably one of them, that once it gets through this substantially, then it's probably on its way.
Yeah.
Has it got through there yet? That's the question mark. And
That
on the
weekly
weekly
pivot,
cut,
mate. I mean, I
yeah,
looked at this morning. I thought anybody buying off the weekly pivot would probably there'll be some people taking some profit in this area, surely. Because it was the
okay,
previous high back from October. So
yeah,
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 they you think there'd be a bit of profit taking going on here, but you're right. I mean, it hasn't gone through confidently as yet, but it's having a bite. So yeah, and dollar's in a little bit of trouble. I could see it going through. Hate that
yeah.
gap, but I
I,
could see it
I, I
going through.
agree with that. What I do find interesting is, and the dollar's now in trouble. I've got no question about that.
Mm,
But how far it's in trouble, I'm not sure yet. Maybe back down to 100, I'm not sure. But certainly back down to this level in my book, 101, to just fill that gap in again. I think the one thing that's got me a little bit concerned with getting into gold or anything like that right now is that we haven't really had a retracement back to this level, which coincides with the bottom of that channel and this horizontal area right across here. So I'm cognizant of that, and whether it does, whether it doesn't, it's due for it, in my humble opinion. So I've got a sneaking suspicion that this week, and I don't know why fundamentally, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that this week we may see early in the week a little bit of a rally in the dollar. And like I said, I've got no fundamental reason why that would be the case, but I do see that as a technical possibility. And if it
mm.
does, I think there's a buy zone, a sell zone here for the dollar, and for that reason, buying on just about anything else against it. So it's a bit of a two-edged sword for me this week. I think it's dollar potential strength early in the week, but I think that'll fade very quickly if it gets to this level. So that's my thesis anyway, and I'm going to go with it. Let's see if we've got a breakout trade for today, and that candle. early in the day has made that very most difficult. Sorry, that's back to the dollar index. That's made it very difficult to trade a breakout because essentially we've already had one. Does that mean that I'd be willing to trade this range to get that reward? I don't think so. And would I be willing to go long here with a stop loss down here, meaning gold has got to go another, what, $18 today to get me anywhere near some decent profit. So $36 in a day? Don't think so. But entirely possible. But it does mean I'm not going to trade it as a breakout because I think that just doesn't make any sense to me at all. So let's go backwards in time and talk about last week for me so I can eliminate some things from this week more than anything else. We'll look at pounds Swissy, which is the order that we had in place on the weekly last week. And you're going to see a very common theme over here. And
Look
it's
at that
called
range,
expired.
mate. Oh, what's that? 2022? Sorry, 2022. Just been in that stuck in there, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, well, this is the one I've been speaking about, mate.
yeah.
If you look at the monthly
Look at
chart,
that.
we've
Yeah.
been inside that bar there for 12 months.
Yeah.
With one exception. Last month, we came out of it, but we didn't last very long. And we're now straight back into that range, which is why last week I thought we had a nice little opportunity to trade a false break of that horizontal level, or the bottom of the range, if you like, and trade it above this level here. I need to learn your method, mate, because really what I should have done, and obviously we're great traders in retrospect, is put a limit entry order on the bottom of that bar, which coincided, of course, with the monthly pivot, or pretty much to the monthly pivot, but certainly where the trade line was underneath here. So, you know, limit entry order there last week would have been pretty cool. Anyway, we're still in that same frame of mind, with one exception. I could easily have replaced the order and maybe put the stop loss underneath that bar there. But I think now I'd rather pick it up on a daily chart if I got a retest of the breakout zone. So that's what I'm seeking. And I'm hopeful today that that will be provided for us. But you'll notice on the daily chart, we're at the top of this daily range. And that's why it's a bit dangerous for me to just go long here. So I don't want to do that. So retest here makes perfect sense to me on pound versus the Swissy. But
yeah, and you know, it's one of those currency pairs, isn't it, mate? I mean, it's, you know, it's very rare that this one breaks out and goes. I mean, I know we had it recently from October 17, but generally speaking, there's a lot of tails on this chart, and it does tend to kind of come back and have another look at an area before it does go. I'd agree with you. You know, breakout trades on this one, and it's actually quite rare. You know, look across the board of the stuff that we have on offer on MT4. Very few of them just go. You know, I know we've seen it with gold. They happen. You know, obviously we've seen it with gold. We see it with the Nasdaq. But oftentimes currencies do come back and test where they were because the economic environment tends to be relatively harmonized, for want of a better word.
Yes, supposedly in equilibrium, right?
Yeah.
The one thing I talk about all the time is it's not a matter of when a level is retested. It's not a matter of if a level is retested in currency pairs. It's a matter of when. You know, it's pretty similar to that gap thing. You know, it's not a matter of if it's going to close. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
And if we can actually get that connected to our, I don't know, psyche or timing, then we'll do very well around that. Is this the time? Yeah, I really don't know if it's going to retest this. But if it does, I'm pretty confident that if price then goes back to this level, it's going to go and get right back into this range. And that's the model that I'm running through here.
You see, that's where a limit order is quite useful, you know, because especially because if you won't be around, and you know the way that I would probably use a limit order here, you know, in the safest way is probably put 3 stops in, where you've got 3 limit orders, you know, over the course of your whole trade. and put one tight stop, one medium stop, and one long stop. So if it is going to go, at least one of them, if not all three, would still be kind of in the trade when it does go, and it gives you some room
Yep.
to kind of remain in it. If we kind of believe that it's going higher, which I'm with you actually about the pound, Swissy, I think it is probably going higher.
Yeah, look, the Swiss has been strong. There's no question about
Mm.
that.
Mm.
And I guess if tensions around the place continue to be as they are, it's difficult to see that the Swissy will weaken too much. But I think the pound is kind of due, and
Mm.
against the
Yeah.
Swissy, as I say, it's been in that range for so long. If it does break out, it's going to go 100 miles.
Well, we've had the
Well, maybe.
budget. We had the budget
All
over
right,
the week last week,
how'd they
and
go?
yeah, well, it was a funny one. I was listening to it, and I was thinking that sounds pretty positive for business. But of course, when you kind of put, go and read some of the headlines online, depending on whether the article is more in favour of the opposition government or the incumbent, will depend on the tone that they believe was that you should derive from the actual or
Mm.
the statement. But I was listening, and I thought it sounded quite positive. But it's I don't know. I can't. Not that I've got any bias, but it's sifting through the kind of detail of every aspect of language is very difficult when you don't know exactly how the government machine works. So but some of the numbers from the UK as well. Surprised, but not going into contraction when it looked like it was going in contraction again last week. We had composite PMI and services PMI both above 50. Speculated to go under. So the pound has been stronger, or certainly the UK has been stronger in some areas than we thought it would be. So it looks like a good currency at the minute.
Okay, I was keen on it last week as well.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'd rather forget about last week, to be honest. Not because it was
yeah,
bad trading, but because I just couldn't be bothered, to be honest. And
yeah,
like I said, this little label up here is going to be very common in the next few things I'm going
yeah,
to show you, because
yeah,
everything I placed an order on just didn't get entered. Every
yeah.
single trade.
But better
Um,
to wish you were in there, right?
well, I'm quite happy with the nil result, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'll just briefly go through those and see how things might have changed. Swissy versus the euro, I thought was primed to go short, and I set an order underneath this bar. Fortunately, far enough not to get triggered
Mm.
before it expired, because it would have got triggered the next day had I left it in, and got hammered.
This is gold, isn't
It's
it? Or
That's silver versus the euro.
silver? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still see a pretty clear box range in here, and maybe we were just too premature with looking at that going short. Although it did look okay to me. There's quite a strong resistance level here, certainly in recent times, followed by a lower high. Just didn't play out. And as I say, fortunately, I didn't get triggered into that before it expired. I'm still cognizant of the top of this range, and depending on what happens next, if it breaks and closes above him, in particular above that high, and comes back and retests it like we just discussed, on whatever that was, can't remember, gold, maybe it's gold. Then I would look to potentially buy this and go to the bigger picture, which means back to these levels here. But I'm not that keen, to be honest. In fact, I won't get rid of it because it's where it is. It's at the top of a range, and I like the range trade. Kiwi versus the yen also expired. We looked at a fairly clear scenario here as far as a false break setup was concerned. We're at the highs, we come below the highs, and we retested that trade line once we'd broken it. So my entry was underneath this bar, my stop loss was underneath there, and you know the rest. No longer interested in this one. This can go by the wayside. Kiwi versus the Swissy, I also traded this time long,
Mm.
and this was based on pretty much a slingshot candle pattern that suggests that if price goes back to here, it's going to go further and retest the highs. So far, that's probably going to happen. But I'm not in the trade because it did expire, similar to Kiwi versus the yen going the other way. We didn't get tipped into that, and Friday's bar was the one that would have entered you into that trade. What do I do now? Nothing at all. I'm not going to chase it, of course. The only thing that would get me interested now in trading this would be a break and retest of this level above this high, or if it came back and gave me a false break of support. So that can go as well at this point. I'm whittling them down. What I did trade this morning was Euro versus the Swissy. And this is based on almost a false premise. And I'll point it out to you, really. Not something that you would do unless you're a slingshot aficionado, but let's have a look at it. You can see that we're ultimately in a strong downtrend, have been for a long, long time. We got a reversal, or is it a failed morning star? It's kind of on the doorstep there, isn't it, Ash? One or the other. But the follow through bar was quite substantial, and there is a trade line running through there, which now makes it really interesting, because it stopped on that line quite noticeably, if you like. We've had another crack at these highs, pull back off them, got this dreadful spinning top last week, which makes it virtually untradeable. However, on the daily chart, I have what looks to me like a double banger false break here. And it's not that trade line, that's the weekly one. But if I bring this into perspective here, that's why I think this can go short if price comes back below this bar here. We've had 3 attempts, 1, 2, 3, to break out of this level here, and each one has failed. False break, false break, false break is what I believe I'm looking at here. And if that's the case, then I've also broken the trade line that's running up through here, which is about there somewhere. Broken and retested it. So this area is crucial or critical, whatever. If you throw in the horizontal level, the one I'm talking about, then that's pretty much showing me that we're at strong resistance, but we're also at strong support. So my theory being, if price goes back below this support and underneath this bar here, then we've got to trade on. Probably I'm being conservative with my first take profit, but I do see this level across here as well. Monthly pivot would be an obvious take profit of some description area. I do see, and Ash, you'll be probably looking at that and going, oh, that looks interesting longer term, because what we have here developing perhaps, and it's extremely large, I've got to say, but that looks interesting. And if price were to come down here, similar to what it's done over here, right? This side looks very similar to this side, looks like a goat's head, right? I'll call it Jeff's goat's head.
I tell you what, mate. I think that is interesting. If you minimize your chart and go and draw a trend line from the very, very first high of the year, and extrapolate down.
Chart. Hang on a second. Okay.
I did look at this one this morning myself, and I thought it was quite an interesting one.
Where am I going? Start of the year?
Start of the year, yeah.
The high, extreme high.
The high. Not that one.
Yep.
The next one down. That one. Yeah.
Where are we going?
If you can hug as many touches, yeah, there. That looks like enough touches. Okay. That's where it looks interesting to me. Have we broken out of that long-term range that we've basically been in for the whole year? Because if we have, then the upside actually looks pretty could be relatively explosive. Another the euro, the Swissy just seems to deliver, particularly against the euro and the pound, but seems to deliver these horrible tails. The one thing about this, though, is that going long on the euro Swiss or the pound Swiss delivers on the swaps. So you could, if this one is to go long, it's one of those that you could probably put pretty wide stops, considering how long it's got to go as well. You could put some pretty wide stops and know that you're going to get paid as the position holds and takes a while to permeate. It's not one of those ones that you need a really quick mover, because as I say, if that has broken out and it's taken what is 11 months to kind of break out, then who's to say that the next 11 months you could just have a trade just in the background with just some small win. just a small win
But
kind of floating around. So I
who's to
quite,
say?
what's that, mate?
Yeah, sorry, I was just repeating your question. Who's to say?
Yeah, yeah,
The thing that I see, however, though, is the opportunity for this massive inverted head and shoulders,
yeah,
and it would be a massive inverted head and shoulders. I mean, look at that.
yeah.
That's going
What's
from
that,
July
July? Yeah,
to September or something.
yeah.
So 4 months, 3 months.
Which would be
Uh,
incredibly, if that did form over the next 3, 4 months, then what a great range to try and trade.
mm,
If you could get on and you could literally try and buy at the bottom of the right shoulder and put the stops on the head and just hold on to it and leave it be.
yep. So that's a nice little theory.
Yeah.
Let's see how that pans out. That's the only trade I've got in the market at the moment. And if
Mm.
you wanted to follow it, the entry is at 0.9615. My stop loss before I run out of breath is 0.9661. And TP1 is a very meager, I'd have to say. It does qualify for my 1/3 minimum. It is at 0.9596, I think, something like that. That sounds about right. Yeah, 0.9596. What else am I interested in? Look, I think the pound is probably my favorite again this week. There are quite a few game changer bars. Where is this one? That's the one I want to look at. Pound pairs. What have I got? Pound Aussie. Interestingly, because last 2 weeks I've been very bullish the Aussie, as you know, based primarily on the interest rate announcement,
Mm.
which I still think the market got wrong in its reaction. But there you go. Hopefully you'll be able to gain something out of that. This is a messy chart now, to be fair, on the daily. But what I do see is this resistance area that we are sitting on, and also, well, a confusing batch of numbers here, really, at the end of the day. But this little dip back underneath this level, which is what 193, nearly 194, and the retest of that has me think, and that's the monthly chart I'm talking about, has me thinking that this may well yet have some more downside. The only thing that concerns me is that we have a double bottom and a higher low sitting here. So I think the area is critical to what happens next, because we've got all the pivots here in a row pretty much, and this trade line. So I'm not committed to a direction here, and wouldn't surprise me at all if pound Aussie takes off, given that the Aussie has had a couple of weeks of good fortune or good trading, and maybe is a little bit overcooked. So I'm thinking pound Aussie long this week. And
Pound
it
Aussie
kind of
long, yeah.
hurts me to say that. The only other thing that I do see is that we're at the bottom of a box range, which is pretty clear to me anyway. If you can't see it, I'll whack it in there for you. You can either pick the closes or the opens or the highs, doesn't really matter. But to my mind, that's a pretty clear box range off which we've come from the top last time out. That suggests that we go to the bottom before we go back to the top. So that's why I say I'm not committed directionally, but I've got a funny feeling that if we get above the monthly pivot and bounce off the weekly, as it may well be doing, that we may go against what I'm seeing here in terms of a range trade and picking up this double bottom higher low scenario. So not committed to a direction, but if I see something that means something here, I'll certainly be looking to trade it. Pound Swissy we've spoken about. The only other one is pound Kiwi. And this is, of course, very similar to pound versus the Aussie, given the Kiwi and the Aussie are very, very similar in terms of, why can't I find it? There it is, pound Kiwi. A little bit better than pound Aussie, if I'm honest. Yes, we've still got the double bottom. We've definitely got a higher low, higher high and higher low. What has happened though is we've gone into range, but this time we're coming off the bottom of the range, and we've got potentially a higher low in here already. The thing that would stop me trading that is twofold. That bar there, I mean, is twofold. One, it's got a low test bar followed by a high test bar followed by a low test bar. What the hell's going on here? market doesn't know, does it? Hasn't got any idea. So why should I be a leader? And I just can't be here. But what I do see very, very clearly is the monthly pivot has held sway here as support mostly throughout the month. And with a couple of days to go, I'm not sure why that changes, to be fair. We've got the daily pivot, monthly pivot, and weekly pivot all sandwiched there, offering support to the market at the moment. I think this is a buy today. Sorry, not today. I need to see something that gets me into it. That bar there's interesting. Yes, it is. I think that this is probably have to be picked up on a smaller time frame if you want to trade it today. And I don't see how that's even possible for me yet either, unless I was prepared to trade into that high, and I'm not. But they're the biases. Pound strong for me against the Aussie, Swissy, and the Kiwi, and I've chosen Euro Swissy as my trade. That's
Cool.
where I'm at, mate. I need a drink real quick.
You go and do your thing. I will just run through a couple of things. I haven't got lots and lots of ideas, but there's a few things that I am looking at. Obviously, not obviously, but I'm looking at the FTSE, and the reason I'm looking at the FTSE is that I still think that there is I still think there's a chance that the FTSE's got to break to the upside. If you look at these on the dailies, and I'm looking at these indexes, and I go to the Nasdaq. Nasdaq has really come back, and it's right on top of the high that it rallied to just before the previous earnings. Actually, the previous earnings in some of the biggest tech companies, that Nvidia and the like. This really sort of this run was a lot of bluster to do with the AI situation. Then the earnings came out, and I didn't think the earnings were awful, but I think that maybe the market had priced in them being a lot better than they were. And we saw this move back to the downside. Then obviously the big collapse and this parabolic move, which saying earlier on that you don't tend to see these breakouts and goes, well, you do on the Nasdaq. But we're right on top of this area now, and you can see that there's probably some profit taken in this area. But there is also, actually, it's probably better to change this to the weekly chart. There's also this high here, which might well get seen before we see some further profit taking. There's difficult to know when it comes down to the fundamentals, because realistically, when it comes down to stocks, do people with where the price is? And that's another reason that this at this stage anyway is same sort of something similar kind of going on with the DAX, where this looks like it's getting closer to the a region of sell zone, though it does potentially have a little bit further to go. But it's in an uptrend, so there's no direction that I'd really want to face right now than long. But I don't like the way that the uptrend has established itself, so I'm not willing to trade that. When it comes to the FTSE is really at the lower end. I mean, it's at the mid-range, I suppose. You look at this on a daily, and it does look like the daily would suggest that there is an area up here to be tested. We've got this here, which was resistance. A breakout of that point, creating a higher high. We got this higher low in this area. This bar here is probably the best illustration of another higher high. A breakout of this high here, the closing high here. Closing high here, and now we're kind of coming back and again testing this area where we've come from. So and Friday's bar was pretty good, and actually when you look at Friday's bar on the shorter term time frames, it was actually a breakout, but it wasn't a very confident breakout. Where we at? Probably not so good there. There probably there. So it looked like a bit of a breakout. Of course, you got these highs up here which don't look so good, but it did look pretty good. And now when we're sort of like coming into, actually, it looks like there, doesn't it? Yeah, there it was. Sorry, there was the breakout. We didn't have it all in focus. There was the breakout there. Just kind of like snuck its way through there and closed. But then we've gapped down this morning. Further weak numbers from China. has pushed this one back down again. We see WTI, again pushing to the downside, which isn't particularly healthy for the FTSE because of Shell and BP. So very little reason to suggest the FTSE's going up. If we kind of consider kind of fundamental things in the background.
OPEC this week, eh?
What's that, mate?
OPEC this week, huh?
Yeah, the OPEC situation may be enough to hold this in its current kind of pattern. And this is really what we've got with a pattern. And this is the thing with the FTSE. You kind of look at where we are, depending on kind of where you start to draw your pattern from. But this is looking distinctly like the apex, if you like, of the resolution of this pattern. This is going to go one way or the other, you would think. And you think, well, when it does go, it's probably going to go a long way. Now, if this is the actual pattern that we're looking at, and you could probably draw a few of them, but it's going to be something like this. But if you look at this and you look at this on a daily chart, this is suggesting that the breakout would take us right back to these highs, this trend line high. So the measured move looks pretty good to break to the upside. Breaking to the downside brings us right back to these lows down here, which again, that seems relatively sensible as well. So in a way, now we're just waiting for which way it's going to go. Now, of course, there is a different way to trade it, which is just buy the low or sell the high, depending on which way you believe it's going to go. The Santa rally is a thing. We tend to rally into the end of the year. So the FTSE has been one of those indexes which, okay, it's ground its way forward, but it hasn't really had anything explosive if you compare the DAX and the NASDAQ. Is it due, or is it more of a front runner for what's about to happen with the DAX and the NASDAQ? We're seeing kind of global growth weaken, and not particularly good for the FTSE. But I'm gonna look for upside rather than downside. The best way to trade it, or the safest way, I should say, would be to wait for the breakout. But that breakout is proving a challenge because, as I say, it looked to me like we were breaking out on Friday, very late in the day, to be fair, but it looked like we were breaking out on Friday, but we just haven't been able to hold. So now we're probably having to readjust to this particular point here. We need to see that breakout. We need to see a close above on the day. Probably a lot higher than this one did, and we can see what can happen from that. So looking for the FTSE long, mate. If you look at this on a 5-minute chart, then or even on a 15, just to kind of like figure out where the range is. Actually, the 5 is a bit cleaner. Where the range is. This is the current situation of the pattern within the pattern, and it's these lows down here. So this would suggest that this particular range could resolve itself down here, and there's another buying opportunity there. But if you manage to pick it up here and got it to that point, and then you get the breakout, you got a really nice point to move some stops to break even. So I think that there could be something on, but it looks like we're waiting. We're testing this area here, but we need to close above. And a retest before we take that one on. So FTSE long for me, mate. If it just can show me something more, technically speaking.
Yeah.
If it could show me something more, I'm up for it. Gold, in total agreement with you. My big problem with gold is this inverted head and shoulders, which is in the wrong place on the chart, but it doesn't really matter where they exist. This is kind of showing that there is some accumulation here. And we're right on the neckline. So again, breakout, retest of the neckline is the trade right now. It might even be that we're actually looking at that. And if that's the case, then it's probably even tighter. And this is our pattern kind of coming in down here. But this is actually I quite like that. But this is
any thoughts on that first couple of candles this morning?
Well, on gold.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I've got to be honest. I think that, as you say, the dollar is in a bit of trouble, and it would suggest that this is going a lot higher because of the trouble with the dollar. But and all this suggests is at the minute is that we're having an attempt at a breakout. But so far that hasn't held. The first couple of candles this morning is on the 4-hour or the hourly.
The
This
hourly.
candle here that you illustrated on the hourly, that suggests that there's a lot of sell orders here. Or certainly, you know, there's quite a lot of volume here, which are happy to take profit or sell this one off, depending on which side of the fence they're currently on. Because looks like a pretty strong reaction, because this looks like quite a strong bar. When was
Hell yeah.
that? That was on the open. Looks like a real attempt to get through there. So maybe, you know, somewhere above here. I wouldn't want to go just one tick above, but somewhere above here, there's probably quite a few sell stops, sell orders, and that could create a bit of a rush to the upside if this area can get cleared. But it looks like the bears may well have enough in their tank to at least push this down further before winding back up again. But I think it's going to try and take this area out a few times, mate. I don't think it's going to be you know, up, down, and that's it. You know, gold has held this this near 2000 area now for a few days, and it's, you know, it looks like it's winding up for an attempt to get long and break out. So it wouldn't be something that I'd want to trade. If I had to trade it, you know, you're kind of in a sell zone, but the sell just isn't attractive. So you, in my opinion, getting on the sell side here is suicide. You know, so trading suicide. I think it'd be really silly. But if you're going to go long, you know, if you had to trade, then the long would be the answer to me, and somewhere above these areas would be probably sensible. Nice to see. This would be nice to see some sort of shooting star looking bar. You know, if this really did reverse, then the long above there would look really attractive. Because there's plenty of sellers kind of you know, trying to push this price down. But what I'd prefer is a push down into this area, and then you know, looking for upside, or at least somewhere on the way to this area, and then looking for upside. This gap is a problem for me, though. I really don't like it at all. Maybe it doesn't exist on other charts. I don't know, but I, you know, quite a big one. It's $10, a $10 gap on something worth 2,000. You know, you're looking at 0.5%. I think that's quite a lot. 0.5% of a gap. You know, if you make 0.5% on a move on a currency in a day, then that's usually a pretty good result. So that's quite large.
And still there. Yes.
And still there, exactly. Catherine's liking the Euro Swiss both ways, and also the pound Aussie long. Double bottom, but the second bottom being slightly higher wick. And also we are a lower high now. Wonder what the seasonal
Sounds a bit
saying.
like me, Catherine.
Yeah, you know, the seasonal charts are a little bit more tricky, but it's the CAD which is the one to watch, and the dollar. The dollar doesn't tend to do that well seasonally at this stage, but it's about to change again. We're kind of at that sort of pass the baton stage with the seasonals. We had a pretty strong seasonal bias against the dollar over the last couple of weeks, but it's about to change the baton again in the next couple of weeks. So we're sort of midway through the patterns. The pound is actually pretty good as well for seasonally. So a long off that could be pretty good. The euro looks okay. The Swissie's looking a little bit weaker as well. But the CAD is the one. The CAD's the one that is seasonally weak, and Euro CAD particularly is a you know, in fact the Kiwi CAD and the Euro CAD are both pretty good. I like the Kiwi CAD. We were talking about the long move down in the euro. Look at this on the CAD as well. So this is where we are with the CAD. There's another one. It's broken out. We've already had one retest and a push. But if this is genuine, you know, and it certainly looks like it probably is, depending on where you put this line. Let's be conservative and put it there with two false breaks at that point. Which, you know, it has false breaks, so maybe this is another one. But if it isn't, then it looks like this one's got some room to travel. Man,
didn't that go fast back up? Whoa.
Yeah, it did. But look how much further it's got to go, mate. It's, you know, potentially.
No, sorry, I meant on the left of the chart. It had come off the bottom.
Oh,
Man.
yeah.
My God,
yeah.
look at that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's a. Oh, look how fast it came down, though.
Yeah, I know. I can see that too.
Yeah, so a genuine V shape. But you know, this one's different. grind to the downside, which suggests that maybe we might get something similar kind of going up. But I like this one for upside. I think that the Kiwi CAD is decent. The seasonal, which, you know, because you talked about the seasonal, Catherine, but the seasonals on the CAD are pretty weak, where they are okay on the Swissy, on the Kiwi, sorry. So I like this one for upside. Maybe not an area to try and trade it. We got this rejection point here, but you know, there's a selling bar there. You kind of mine into this one a little bit on shorter term time frames, and it looks like it looks all right, doesn't it? You know, depending on where this is, that looks all right to me. You know, again, it's a longer term position that you'd be sort of like trying to hold on to, considering what we've seen. But this is the previous breakout level. You know, this was the when it broke out of this whole long range. That was where it had to retest, and we've broken that area again, and now we're back above it. So I quite like the Kiwi CAD. It's you know, it's something that I would consider trading. I don't like it here, but maybe coming back in here, and you can see it again, looking at this longer term position, that there's some room. So that means stops can be a bit more generous, and you definitely want to check the swaps. So just incidentally, ways to check swaps and spreads. You go right click on your currency pair. You go to symbols, and that brings up this window here. And then if you go and find your currency pair, so Kiwi CAD, isn't it? Kiwi CAD. Then you go properties, and it gives you kind of all the detail that you need here. So when you're looking down here, swap type. So swap long, minus 1.07. Swap short is minus 2.18. So you're going to be in negative swaps to hold the position either way. And it might not be as attractive. But if you kind of go Kiwi Swiss
also,
as an example.
Also doesn't seem fair, does it? They get
No,
to
it's
buy
awful,
the
mate.
cherry both
It's
ways.
awful. Yeah, I hate it. But, you know, you go Kiwi Swiss, and if you like the Kiwi generally speaking, look at the swap long. That pays. So
Yep.
this is where you're going, okay, great. If I can get a position on that with a wide stop, then I'll hold it. You know, I'll use it as a little bank account and hold it and let them pay me some interest. So that might be a better option if we go to Kiwi Swiss, which I do quite like, you know, but problem with Kiwi Swiss is it hasn't broken out, or has it? Depending on whether you look at it as a false break or not, I think you'd have to treat it like it hasn't broken out. But if this one gets above this area, a lot of people are probably going to be quite keen to hold on to this one with a stop, and that looks like it's got a long way to go.
Yeah,
I mean, look at it.
Of them, or most of them against the Swissy the same, aren't they?
Oh, mate,
If they do break.
Yeah, they break. I mean, we're talking about only a year ago, or only a year and a half ago, that it was all the way up here. So to suggest that it breaks out, you know, when you look in this in very, very close view, it looks like it's got a long way. It looks like, nah, there's no way it's going up there. But if you kind of like, you know, broaden the view and say, well, okay, well, look where it is on the longer term time frame. It looks to me like it's got plenty of chance to get at least to here, you know, or at least to back to this high. So you know, just waiting for that breakout and taking a position with a wide stop, I think is tradable, and I think that'd be something that I'll be looking to do.
All right, buddy. Thank you, as always, for all that information. George, how you doing, buddy? I caught him napping.
Sorry, I was muted.
Sorry, you were where, mate? Sorry?
I was muted.
Muted. Oh, okay. I thought you were in the toilet. That's okay.
Hi, George.
Are you guys good?
Yeah, we're not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Much better than I was this time yesterday, and much better than I was the day before that, and much better than I was the day before that. So
yeah,
I'm
poor
on
old
the
Jeff's
improve.
got COVID.
Brilliant.
Well, no, it's not for him.
You're supposed to cheer it, George.
Quick look at what I'm looking at. can't do the usual tricks. You understand?
Yeah,
Powers.
interesting. Interesting in your thoughts on the indexes, actually, George, because you know the FTSE is. It seems to me like it's got more room than the DAX and the Nasdaq, but it's not particularly loved. So, what do you do in this kind of scenario?
All right. Maybe you can put up yours because I can't
Oh,
share
yeah, mate.
screen here.
I've got COVID. That's my excuse this week. Sorry, mate.
Can I try again? All right. Let me try.
It's quite stuck, isn't it?
Share screen. Okay. I think it's going to work. Right.
I might well get kicked out.
All right. So I have an interesting view on the indexes, actually. So I say it's interesting because there's a long-term view. So if you trade in longer term time frames, you might have a different view to what I'm going to be looking at on the day. This is a DAX. I mean, very strong going up. But whenever I see the market doing that and so far away,
I'm
this is
still
a trend.
seeing Ash's screen.
Sorry,
I wonder whether my. Do you know what? Let me just close
can't
up.
hear me.
I'll be back.
Oh no, I've got yours now, George. Sorry, I'm just on delay, I think.
Okay, all right. So I was saying, with this acceleration that I have on the DAX, so far away from the 10 EMA, even though the market is bullish, at some point there is going to be a pullback. There has to be some pullback, whatever the reasons are. Whether it's profit taking, I mean, you can see the bars are getting smaller. So I'm expecting that there's going to be a little bit more selling. There's going to be selling to come back and test the EMA. So I'm pretty bearish on the market today. So I'm looking for shorts. We are also at these levels where the bears came in, past 3 months since August. This has all been selling zone, selling zone, selling zone. And of course, the bulls have come up quite aggressively. But where we are now, I'm looking to go short on the day on DAX. UK 100 been a trading range. So today, when I go in, if it starts to sell off, I'm going to try and find ways to get it. I think there's a candle that I'm going to be interested to see if I can jump in at some point. If it sells off, I'm going to sell to see what happens when we get to these lows. If we get here and get a reversal pattern, we come back again, I'm going to buy. So trading range behavior, flow with it all the way down and flow with it all the way up. S&P 500, I do look at it, during the day if I get setups, because you might get a decent swing setup that carries on to the US session. But I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Again, huge bull acceleration. We've had 3 attempts, so that's a wedge top. So there's going to be some selling at some point to come and try and test the 10 EMA or the 20, whatever the EMAs are lower down there. So I'm looking for shorts as well on that. And then the one currency pair that I have is the CAD. It's already looking like a bit longish. This was the level I was interested in. That I use that as my stop indicator. This was the previous low, broke beneath it, tail at the bottom. So if I look on the daily, I mean on the 5 minutes on the CAD, and that was the first candle. Not of the day, of course, because currencies are continuous. But when the US market, the European markets opened, and we went and tested that level, which was like a double bottom, high low double bottom. So bulls seem to be taking over the market, or they are taking over the market quite aggressively at the moment, coming off this higher low from the day. A big bear trend since the Asian session. So as far as this is concerned, I'll just wait to see if we get a pullback to the EMA to trade it long. But as far as the indexes are concerned, I'm short. I'm very bearish in terms of what I think is going to happen this week. Not because the market has become bearish, but because of those pullbacks back to the EMAs. So S&P 500, again, I'm looking for ways to go short. UK 100 trading range, sell all the way down. If it turns at the bottom, buy all the way up. So there's not much for me to kind of speculate on as far as the 5 is concerned. But on the daily, if we do break out above these levels, I mean, every time we try to go up, we've been coming down. So this whole market is in a trading range, which is good
Tight.
because it swings up, swings down, and just jump in.
It's tight, isn't it,
That's
George?
again,
That trading range is tight, and obviously with the UK 100, those three black crows, well, it's four of them actually, that kind of preceded the move to the downside, the right down to the lows. You would think that there would be that aggressive selling would be. It looks quite extreme. It looks like an overreaction, and you think that there are some buyers that are suggesting, okay, look, let's at least retest the breakout point. So that's what I keep looking at with the FTSE. You know, it looks to me like there's almost that gap, that kind of that where there was just an absolute the bears just overran, and until that kind of gets filled up, I don't like the short so much. But as you say, it's just struggled. It's struggling to get through. It's taken a long time to kind of where the other indexes have. You know, the other indexes have gone, but this thing just does not want to go.
You see, and that's the thing. I mean, if I was trading longer time frame, you know, for the bulls to get into here, it's possible, you know, because here they've tried once, failed, tried again, so they probably might try one more time, which might create a wedge pattern, which gets into an area where bears can come back in. So, you know, trading a higher time frame. If you get a bull signal here, you know, and you can put your stop beneath the trading range, you know, you might get enough to get a 1-to-1. But when I look at this on a 5-minute chart, my first assessment is what is likely to happen in the day. Within where we are, it's a trading range day. So as far as looking at what I'm looking for in the day, it's just swings up and down. If the bulls do take over and they break out above that high, and I can see a bull trend, I'll jump in with it. But knowing that at any time we can reverse. So we could get up here, but we might get up there with just trading range behavior, overlapping candles, and get up there.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean that's unfortunately I don't know the terms of candlestick pattern. So you know that I just see a micro double top, a lower high, and we sell off. But you know the bears that sold this off are going to be coming out to defend here. But in the day, I'm looking for shorts, just like on DAX, even though we are strongly up and we can still break out above that. At some point, there's going to be some profit taking, there's going to be some pullback to test. I mean, that's just one strong EMA 10. There could be 20, 50 downhill. So in the day, again, if I get a reversal pattern by the bears trying to sell off, I mean, it looks small here, but on the 5-minute, this you know, it's kind of stuff that we're talking about. So already that's setting up quite nicely. So there's a little bit of follow through from the bears, bit of a pullback. I'll be happy to sell that. I mean, if I get to sell that, by the time it gets down to even just, you know, even to the low of the session, I mean, that's after a pullback, that's probably a 1-to-1. So in the day, you know, a lot can happen. You can come back down here, low of the Asian session, double bottom, then try to rally up again. And you still get opportunities to jump in that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity on a lower time frame. I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the week. You know, whether that ends up as being a distinct movement on a higher time frame, that's something else. But pretty exciting opportunities for the week so far. At the end of the week.
Okay. So George, you're an index bear. Ash, you're a Kiwi CAD bull.
Yeah.
And I'm a pound bull. Okay. Well, at least we've got something to think about, if nothing else. Guys, they're our ideas for the week upcoming and what you might like to position yourself or at least think about positioning yourself towards. How about you? You got any ideas or anything you'd like to share with us, or indeed any questions around what we've discussed throughout the show today? We've got about 5 minutes before we will wrap this up, but happy to answer any of those questions or discuss any ideas you might have along those lines or otherwise. This is our fourth last show for the year. only 3 more to go. We'll wrap things up on the 18th, 17th, 18th, I think it is. Yes, 18th of December, which is, of course, 7 days out from Chrissy. And we'll be back on the 8th of January, which is 13 or 14 days after Christmas. Everything revolves around Christmas. Catherine's all good. Nice ideas from everybody. Fantastic. Thanks, Catherine. Ash is the show on tonight.
With the Traders podcast?
I believe so.
If it's the Traders podcast, it is, and somebody has a chance of winning £2,500. I think, sorry, $2,500. I think that actually somebody has won $2,500 this week.
How do you know?
Double check. Well,
this
because
was a live show, mate. Come on.
Last week, I'll have to check the account, but let me just double check. Yeah, the pound still looks like it's raging to the upside. The trader last week, the guest trader last week, came in and stole Paul's trade, and that trade was the pound dollar, right. and I think that's outstripped everything. It's definitely outstripped my FTSE trade, which has been flat. And Paul's second trade, he's had 2 good trades this week actually. Mine have been flat to slightly lower with oil. Simon, I'm not sure, but I think there was a thief in the night last week and they stole Paul's trade. So I think there is going to be a winner in the podcast. $2,500 just for
nice.
Just for coming in, literally just coming in the show. That's all you got to do. Come in the show, pick a trade. You go into a little spin of a wheel and you pick a trade and you can win that. So we're going to be starting the run again this week.
All right. You can obviously win much more by tuning into George on a Friday, where he'll just put you in best position possible. What time is that, George?
That is 6:30 p.m. Sing. Usually it's for 15 minutes, but this past week a lot of exciting things happened. So we ran 30 minutes and the guy stayed in. So I was pretty appreciative of that. So we look at any trades I'm in at the market. And last week I shared with the guys some research I did on trading currencies, on trading the CAD, and I think that went down well. So 6:30 Sing, 15 minutes. Unless something else happens, we could extend it.
All right. That's way past beer o'clock for me. It might not be a good idea if I tune in at that time, but the recordings will always be there.
As long as you don't comment.
All right, mate. Thank you for that. And Ash, if people don't know how to take advantage of that offer of winning 2,500 Singapore dollars, how do they do it?
Well, all you've got to do is come into the show later on. So the show will be on Facebook, be on our online profits Facebook, and you just put a name in the Facebook page. Just tune in, join it. Make sure that you can get in the show because you have to be live on the show to actually pick your trade. And that show starts in about an hour, about an hour's time. So you can come on and put your name in the hat. And if your name comes out the hat, you get to pick a trade, or you get to steal one of our trades that we're going for. And if you outstrip everybody else, then you win the money.
Okay. Not on Facebook at the moment from Gary. I'm out of the picture there. I've got no idea how to control that. But maybe message on Facebook. Can Gary should be able to just put a message on Facebook, shouldn't he? Or message.
Yeah. I'll have to find exactly what the link is, but you just kind of go to the Facebook page, and I will find out. I'll try and find out what it is. But if you go to the Facebook page, Online Trading Profits Facebook page, and when we are live in an hour's time, Paul will talk us through it again. But here's the Online Trading Profits Facebook page link.
Right, so that's going in the chat box. But Gary's saying it's just not there at the moment. Maybe that's just to be added shortly. I don't know.
It might be.
Fair. Zachariah, you're most welcome. Thank you for being our trading buddy for the day. And thank you all for being our trading buddies this Monday. As I say, 3 more before Santa swags into the joint and gives us some nice prizes. We'll see if we can get some nice prizes in the meantime. Thanks, Ash. Thanks, George. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.